Today, we're diving into a really powerful poem called The Face of the Other, and we're going to use it to explore a fundamental question. When we see another person, what does that moment truly demand from us? Okay, let's just start with this question, because it's at the absolute heart of everything we're talking about today. When you lock eyes with a stranger, what's really going on in that moment? Are you just noticing their hair color, their clothes, or is something way deeper happening? This is exactly the territory that the poet Clara A.B. Joseph wants us to explore. So, to really get what this poem is doing, we've got to look at where it's coming from. See, this isn't just a piece of poetry, it's actually part of a huge conversation about a powerful philosophical idea, a responsibility to other people. And this is her, Clara A.B. Joseph. She's both a poet and a professor, which is a really cool combination. In her first book of poetry, the one we're looking at, she dives right into this massive ethical question. So this isn't just about pretty words or feelings. It's about our moral obligations to each other. And that brings us to the poem's key inspiration, a Jewish French philosopher named Emmanuel Levinas. You kind of can't understand the poem's message without getting a handle on some of his core ideas. So who was this guy Levinas? Well, he had this pretty radical idea. He basically said that the foundation of all our ethics, our whole sense of right and wrong, it doesn't come from laws or logic or religion. No, it's born in that simple, powerful, and totally transformative moment of meeting another person, face to face. So what's the big deal about a face? I mean, we see them all the time. But for Levinas, and as Joseph's poem shows so brilliantly, the face is so much more than just a set of features. It's a call to action. Listen to how the poem describes this encounter. It's not a passive thing. The face dissolves sideways into your brain. How wild is that? It suggests an experience that actually gets inside you. It unsettles you before you even have a chance to process it. And this, right here, is the crucial point. For Levinas, the face, just in its bareness, its total vulnerability, makes this silent, ethical demand on us. Before we can think, before we can judge or categorize, the face issues a fundamental command: do not kill me. It's the most basic plea for existence you can possibly imagine. Wow, this quote just brilliantly gets to the heart of it. The poem is urging us to go beyond just using our eyes. Read in Braille, the lesson of my dignity. It's an appeal for a much deeper kind of knowing, one that's based on a real connection, on recognizing the profound humanity in the other person. Okay, so that's the ideal. But the poem doesn't stop there. It also shows us the dark, and often violent, consequences of what happens when we ignore that ethical call from the face. I mean, think about it. Our common image of justice is Lady Justice wearing a blindfold, right? She's supposed to be impartial, weighing the evidence without seeing the people involved. But the poem makes us stop and ask, is that really justice? Joseph gives us this absolutely searing critique. A justice of eye for eye, tooth for tooth, is a justice that literally breaks a person down into their component parts. It's a system that is designed to actively avoid seeing the whole person, the face, and therefore their humanity. And that failure to see is the first and most critical step toward dehumanization. When we refuse to answer the call of the face, we can turn a person into a thing, an object, a target. And there's this one incredibly powerful story in the poem that shows this in stark detail. So here we have a soldier aiming at a hidden enemy, and the language used, framing, nearing, zeroing, is so mechanical, so technical, he's completely objectifying his target. But then he sees, and it's not an object, it's a woman. In this moment, that ethical encounter happens. He sees her face, he hesitates. But notice what he does immediately to escape that responsibility. He reduces her to a shapely profile, objectifying her aesthetically even while he acknowledges her fear. He is actively refusing to see her. And by refusing that ethical call, by turning away from her face and what it demands, he's able to finish the job. He pulls the trigger. The ultimate act of violence is made possible only by that initial act of choosing not to truly see. So, where does all of this leave us? What is the poem ultimately calling us to do? Well, it's about recognizing a fundamental and maybe even unsettling responsibility that we all share. The poem shows us that the vulnerability of another person isn't just some general concept floating out there. It's a direct, personal address to you. Their need, their humanity, it makes a claim on you, specifically. This quote just perfectly captures that silent plea. It's a need that exists before words, a command that is felt rather than heard. The face of the other is asking for our care and our recognition without ever having to say a thing. And here's the most radical idea at the core of all this. We tend to think of ourselves as free individuals who then choose to take on responsibilities. Levinas and the poem, they flip that script completely. The moment we encounter another person, their very presence makes us responsible. Responsibility isn't something we opt into, it's the fundamental condition of being human with other humans. But the poem frames this not as some heavy burden, but as an awakening. It's a tapping on your chest. Responding to the other person, being responsible for them, is actually what awakens us to our own deepest humanity. We become more ourselves by being there for others. And that is the question that the face of the other ultimately leaves us with. It takes this huge, complex philosophy and turns it into a deeply personal, everyday challenge. So it's not just about what you see, but about what you will do. What will you be responsible for?